everybody, welcome back to the Quest for the Bestest. It's the podcast from Backlog Banter where we review every single Palme d'Or winner. Today, we are talking about... What?
All of them? Every single one? That's a lot, dude.
Every single one.
Who would commit to that?
We are over halfway through,
That's
by
right.
the way, gentlemen.
This is like number 56, I believe.
Yeah. We've been doing this for 2 years.
Okay.
It's actually 57.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So today we are going to what is a little indie darling film, 1989, as Steven Soderbergh coming out of Sundance, the festival route, indie filmmaking at its inception in the 90s, I guess. Sex, Lies, and Videotape is the topic of discussion today.
That's what they called us in high school.
There's
four
of
us.
us.
The other one we're not allowed to say.
No, somebody's and.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about this one because I myself have got stuff to say. You know, starring James Spader, Andie MacDowell, Peter Gallagher. Yeah, we're gonna get right into it. But first, last time we talked about a movie from not a little more than a decade prior, 1989 to 1973. We talked about Scarecrow. That film got a 7.8. Avoiding a major pileup in the 7.7 tie zone. So it's going one above Anora, the most recent, or the second most recent Palme d'Or winner, at spot number 22. So Ballad of Narayama, Scarecrow, Anora. Right there, kind of in the middle of our list as it stands right now. Today, we'll be adding, as I said, the 57th movie to that. So I'm very excited. The list grows ever longer.
Indeed it does.
Indeed it does.
Exponentially.
No,
actually, not
it's linear. It goes by one every time we do the show. Abram, do you have any community action, community reports, community comments for us to think about?
No.
Oh,
to be honest with you, I don't. And then I was like, let's go back into the sometimes filling cistern of the BLB archives community tab.
Oh, excellent.
It's looking pretty empty, but I found this comment from a year ago where someone commented on Tom Jones saying, "You may be more likely to see this for free at the River Forest, Illinois Public Library tomorrow, thanks." So,
is the River Forest Public Library doing a screening, or is he just going to rent the DVD?
I'm not sure. So, the says, because you're probably still watching, did you go see that for free at the River Forest, Illinois Public Library?
Make up a guy who watches a 90-minute review in order to decide whether or not he wants to rent a movie from the library.
For free.
Also, we didn't like Tom Jones.
No, we really hated
does that mean that? So does that mean that our negative review of it inspired him to go watch it?
No,
that happens to me sometimes. I hear people hate it and I'm like, I gotta find out.
I think it's more likely that instead of renting it, there was a screening, but then it seems equally improbable that a library is screening Tom Jones in 2024.
Yeah, that's supposed to be a family-friendly sort of place. That guy, he's all randy. You don't want that.
Late night at the library. How about that?
Oh.
New channel.
Everybody gets a big, messy fucking chicken drumstick that they get to eat while they're watching.
Yeah. And the quietest.
And they have a food fight at the end.
The quietest eater gets kicked out. You got to eat really loudly.
All right, instead of Tom Jones, let's talk about Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Yes. Tanner, would you recount what happens in the plot of this movie? Give our audience a little synopsis.
Certainly, I will. So
give them the snap.
This film really kicks off. We have a young married couple, Anne and John. They are, just your average American couple in the late 1980s. They live in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. John's a lawyer.
I was wondering
Anne's,
what city they lived in. I was gonna just make that a hypothesis, but I'm glad we know now.
Anne is a stay-at-home sort of wife at this point. They don't have any kids. But we soon come to find out that John is cheating on Anne with her sister, Cynthia, and that John is inviting an old college buddy of his to stay with them as he looks for a new place in Baton Rouge. And Graham, this college friend, sort of begin a torrid affair that is largely hinged on Anne's complicated relationship with sex. She as she notes, is not obsessed with it in the same way that a lot of people are, but that's because perhaps the true meaning of it, the intimacy of it, hasn't been unlocked for her, much like it has been locked away for Graham. He brings in a videotape and a video camera and a collection of videotapes that are interviews he has with various women across the United States about their sex lives. And the drama and intrigue sort of kicks off from there, I would say.
Should have
And
called this Sex Lives on Videotape.
Sex lives on videotape. Now that's good.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Maybe that's what
Steven, hit me
Soderbergh
up.
wanted to. Soderbergh wanted to call it that, but the person who was writing the title down, which is how you name movies,
They heard
misheard
it.
him.
Yeah.
And he never corrected
It's
it.
like how you get
it's an ink. We can't do
It's like how
anything.
people get their name wrong, like on birth certificates because someone heard it wrong, and then that's just their
Right.
name.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, or like Ellis
Something
Island or
happens a
whatever.
lot, by the way.
Abram, what did you think of this Soderbergh film?
I loved it. I thought it was outstanding. It's my first time seeing it. I think what's so interesting to me about it is sort of like the rhythm of it. I think that I was actually really taken by the editing of this film. I think that sort of the way that we deploy these covert relationships and plot lines unfolding, the way we cut between them, I find to be very intriguing, and it kind of heightens the tension of this sort of central mistrust. And I find that filmically very gripping, and moreover, I just think that the dialogue and the way the dialogue is performed is just so rich, and it gives you such a sort of intimate and clear picture of these people who are so singular and so specific, and I'm really taken by the film. I thought it was outstanding.
Tanner, what'd you think?
Yeah, this is my second time watching this film after a number of years, actually, and yeah, it is an excellent film. I mean, crazy enough, the debut film from Steven Soderbergh. This is his first time directing a feature film, and it just comes like fully formed. It is perhaps not as like formally inventive as he kind of continues to challenge himself
Sure.
later on in his career, but what it really is a very considered character drama that is very rich and deals a lot with like sex and intimacy and the relationships and things like that, and what we get out of them versus what we convince ourselves that we don't need out of them, but in fact we really do. I think all of the backstory and character writing around Sex Lives and Videotape is really what gives texture to it. I mean, the performances are also fantastic, but yeah, I mean, I really like this movie and was very entertained going back to it after just this year, watching a bunch of Steven Soderbergh movies as I have now completed his filmography. He's a busy guy who works on a bunch of different stuff, but all of his major feature films I have watched, and going back to his debut after a number of years was also pretty interesting.
Very cool, very cool. Tucker, your thoughts and opinions. T's and
Yeah,
O's.
I love this movie. I think that it's very difficult to make a straight up just conversational drama gripping. But I do think that the balance of screen time between a very small cast of characters is one of those ways that you can, I think, it's easier to pull me in when I'm spending so much time with a small group of characters. Many of my favorite movies are based around that exact premise of there might not be anything fantastical or spectacular going on filmmaking wise, but the time that you spend with characters really ingratiates you into their mindset, into their world. And this movie is very much about psychology. It's about the way that we approach building relationships with others and the ways in which we establish walls between ourselves and connecting to others. And what I find so fascinating about the way that the characters' dynamics unfold over the course of the movie is that each of them comes to kind of admit who they are and the way that they approach building relationships, and how that is challenging for each of them, because the movie starts and they all feel like they understand themselves really well, but through the course of the movie and learning about themselves and learning about others, they realize that couldn't be further from the truth, and that this is something that they very much do have to work on. And the movie kind of leaves us in this interesting place where the characters aren't done growing yet. And so I think it's really fascinating. I think that all around, I mean, 4 excellent performances. Even with how simple filmmaking wise the movie is, Aiden was mentioning the editing. I also like a lot of the cinematography. There's a lot of good use of like almost voyeuristic shots of like a camera like up in the corner, looking down at the
Mm.
characters. Um, it's and like it juxtaposes that against really interesting close-ups that feel very intimate. Um, yeah, it's just really well made and executes on its goal, which is to explore human psychology and sociology and sexuality. And yeah, I love this movie.
Mm-hmm. For myself, yeah, I'd say love, maybe not love, but enjoyed it, liked it quite a bit. I found lots of like very specific elements of the film very interesting to kind of pick at. We were kind of joking before we started recording about the fashion of the movie. I think there's something to be said there. Um, I really like the tone. I think the tone of this film is one that is rarely really captured. It's a really quiet film. I appreciate that, and that our characters um barely ever like blow up at each other. They often
Yeah.
speak to each other, not even in very loud ways. And I just really like the kind of ambiance that sets me in as a viewer to be
Mm,
there, and we're in these intimate conversations, and so we hear them in that way. And then I do find what uh, they're actually talking about and the character revelations and the character beats and progression to be quite interesting and fruitful and intriguing as the film builds. It doesn't ever really let up. You keep having more and more questions as it goes on. And I do really like the ending that it feels right. It feels like pretty much right on the nose. I don't think it's out of pocket. I don't think it's coming out of nowhere. I don't think it's pandering to me, and yet I see it coming, and I'm happy it's there, and then I'm also really happy that the movie cuts and that we're done. And like Soderbergh has the movie end not at with this kind of beginning of this next phase in these character lives,
mm,
but at
mm.
the end of the current phase, the one that we've been watching all the way
Sure.
through. Um, so yeah, I think there's a lot of meat to sink our teeth into here. A lot of interesting perspectives presented on sex, and I think maybe the film as a whole, kind of in this, we've seen similar films out of I would say like the '80s canon, um, more particularly back in the Best Picture viewing, um, but films like Ordinary People that's a late
Sure.
'70s, but that's in this beginning
Hmm.
of mental health awareness. We're at the end of kind of a sexual revolution in
Yeah.
America, and so this movie feels to me
Annie
like
Hall,
this
Midnight
this
Cowboy.
like opening, right,
Yeah.
of discussion,
Hmm.
and in a way that it is self-serious too. I appreciate that. So yeah, I'm gone on for a moment here, but Tucker, you normally lead us off with a topic area to start
What
at.
do
So
I?
yeah, you
That's
do.
very interesting.
What kind of question do you have for us three that you want to have answered for the start of
Hmm.
this discussion?
Hmm. Uh, who do you think gives the most compelling performance in
Oh,
the film?
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that this is
Mm-hmm.
such a balanced cast that there's
Hmm.
not a clear front runner. I would say uh Andy McDowell as Anne is probably the primary character, but even then, like not enough to make it feel imbalanced or particularly like it's not like her story. Um
Uh-huh.
and I think for me, she would be my choice. I think that for as quiet of a movie, Timo, as you mentioned, as quiet a movie as this is, the strength of the entire cast, but particularly Andrew McDowell, is imbuing small actions with a lot of personality to where you understand her nervousness and her sort of how closed off she is as a person. She doesn't really have a lot of friends. She doesn't really do a lot of stuff, and so she kind of sits by herself in a lot of these scenes. And even when she is with people, she is kind of closed off, and watching her like have these little fidgety motions, even without learning too much about her like backstory immediately in the movie, I'm like, okay, I understand the mindset of this person because Andy McDowell, in the way that she dresses, in the way that she holds her hands like close to her body in almost every scene, in the like small fidgety distractions that she's like not looking in the eyes of people. I remember the dinner scene, she's like stirring this little bowl of strawberries, and I just think these like it's these little stumbles and little like ticks that she has, and that the whole cast has. Also, uh, um, Graham also has a lot of these little motions.
That's just James Spader, right? Ultimately, he is just a tickful guy.
Yeah, Andy McDowell, who I've also seen in more roles where she's like
Mhm.
more gregarious now going, she really
Yeah,
nails this
yeah.
like closed off kind of introspective person.
Definitely. Well, Tucker, since you took the main character of the movie, and the
Haha.
obvious answer, I guess I mean I guess I'll go with Graham. I'll go with James Spader. I mean,
That would be my answer
I
too.
th- I think there is of course something to especially Laura San Giacomo's performance. That's Cynthia. I think that she is like an interesting microcosm for what is more broadly a movie about Anne.
Yeah.
But I think the real genius that what Soderbergh does with the script here is that yes, the movie appears to largely be about Anne, but then in the closing 20 minutes or so, like it really flips around and it's like, no. Graham's not getting off the hook here. He is
Yeah.
not just going to be some like agent of sexual liberation for these women who are,
Yeah,
you know,
good point.
in the orbit of Peter. Not
Peter-
Peter.
Peter Gallagher.
John. Peter Gallagher is the actor. But in
Like
fact,
stop
we're
getting your
going
biblical
to
names mixed up.
exactly.
Your apostles.
We are going to, in fact, examine Graham's
The
intricacies
videotape
as
according
well.
to Graham.
Yeah. We are going to tap into what this guy's deal is and why he's doing this and what it stands in for in his sort of headspace. I think,
But I would say
as
that
a,
we're also tapping into Cynthia and why she does what she does and what is up with her headspace a little bit towards the end of the film. So, yeah, Soderbergh is like unafraid to open the curtains a little bit and broaden the not the judgment but the gaze.
yeah. Now, Abram, you have to make the argument for why Peter Gallagher gives the best performance.
I don't want to.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But I think he actually is quite good in the film.
Yeah, he's great.
There's a moment when we're in this deep conversation between Graham and Anne, where Anne kind of has this revelation that a lot of her behavior is defined by imagining what Cynthia would do and doing the opposite.
Yeah.
And I think that part of what's so interesting about the way the film is constructed is that there's sort of a plot level like drama and salaciousness to the relationships between our characters, but just them as characters in a screenplay, the way that they are kind of two pairs of
Yes.
characters against each other. John and Graham and then Anne and Cynthia is very smart. And so when I think of these performances, I actually usually think of the dynamic that unfolds between them and the way the characters are playing off of each other. And I think that a moment of this that I really love a lot is actually between John and Cynthia when Cynthia invites him over but doesn't want to have sex. And it's sort of the end of the affair. And the way that we kind of see at different points in the film Peter Gallagher perform John's failing persona is very interesting.
Yeah.
So if I were to be put in the position of defending him, I would say that actually in these scenes as the film progresses and his ruse becomes thinner and thinner, he actually does a great job sort of showing the unraveling of this man. But if I had to just put a name on the board, I think that James Spader, in my view, gives the most interesting performance.
Oh, Robert California bias for this.
Very
guy.
true.
But no, just because I think
Ultron
we'll largely be
bias.
talking about Anne and Graham and to a lesser extent Cynthia, I do just want to shout out, I reaffirm that Peter Gallagher is great in this movie. There are a few people better suited to be playing 80s yuppie assholes. We've seen him do this on this show with American Beauty. He's in that one as well. But yeah, like he just has that look, and
It's like, I just want to note here how specific the 80s yuppie, like a suit wearing, office working archetype is, and how that archetype plus the quietness of the movie and the way that the dialogue, and this is all super sound technical, but like the way the dialogue is played so low and then we boost the gain on it, so so it sounds normal, but we can tell that they're speaking in a more intimate way. It is like, I'm like, American Psycho is borrowing heavily from this movie. In those,
American Beauty?
no, from the one we talk about now, Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
No, you said American Psycho. Did you mean American Beauty?
No, I said what I meant to say.
Okay. I thought we were talking about American Beauty.
No.
No,
I
he's
don't care.
talking
I
about
don't care about
American
American.
Psycho.
I don't
We're
care about
spinning-
American
okay.
Beauty.
I don't remember as it pertains to like the 80s
American
yuppie
History X.
archetype.
Yeah, and that kind of marker as a character to bring it back to this film. I am immediately distrustful, and I don't find John to be a likable character, but I do find him to be very.
What?
I want to know all about him. I want to see what he's up to and what his deal is,
Mhm.
and I want to see how he's going
Yeah.
to react to situations because of my preconceived notions of what the 80s yuppie asshole character
Yes.
is to do. He brings out the axe eventually, and I don't think that this movie was, I wasn't expecting that in this one, and of course it's not in there. But to be playing with that male archetype, in what to me, American Psycho is a 90s movie, and this is an 80s movie.
Mhm.
But that the lineage is clear to me between those two films, mainly in this character and the sound editing choices.
Well, I mean, even if we go back to American Beauty, I was
Mhm.
thinking of those films in close conversation while I was watching, just insofar, and this also does apply to American Psycho to a degree,
Ah.
insofar as there's
What
something
about American
very,
Dad?
not American Dad, American Fiction. These wouldn't apply.
Fair.
Fiction. Oh yeah, hey.
I think that there is something very interesting to the psyche underpinning the above median income suburban
Yeah.
lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that the way we
That's part of why you
see-
liked Ordinary People so much, I believe.
I didn't remember that movie.
Oh. Well, I remember you liking it, and that you saying that's why you liked it. So there you go. That's a little tip for you.
There we go.
You like that movie.
I think that the character of John is interesting to me in this way, and sort of the whole film is interesting to me in this way, insofar as that there is a sort of social expectation that is driving our characters to various degrees, and even when they are sort of exist outside of this sort of polite society that John and Anne do, their distance from that is what defines their characters in large part.
Yep.
There is sort of a there's like a disdain from Anne to Cynthia about Cynthia's sexuality and Cynthia's
job.
the way and her
Yeah.
job.
And her dress, her clothing.
Exactly. And so I think that that's another way I'm thinking about the way characters are interacting and thinking about the way that they're performing these roles, because I love the scene when at the very end of the film when John knows he's being fired, but he's putting on this performance of oh, the client, well, best of luck to them. They really, they really made a mistake leaving me, or oh, I'll see you on the court in a second. I just got to go talk to the boss. All this time he's putting on this air as though he is this guy who can leave at lunch to have an affair, and he can push that client off, and he is going to go out to the court with his friends, and he is this successful, he refers to himself as like a wealthy heterosexual man, and
Yes,
all
listen,
women,
This moment,
Straight-
that
it's
line.
Reagan's America, baby. The wealthy heterosexual man can have it all.
Yeah.
yeah. And so that's another sort of thing that's guiding my viewing as I'm watching. How does sort of the distance our characters are from this sort of idealized suburban wealthy American lifestyle, how far from that are they, and what does that mean when they're interacting?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to compare it to American Beauty as well, well, I think one of the most interesting things about the filmmaking of this movie is how intimate the tone of the movie is, and how intimate the subject matter and the themes of the movie are about sexuality and about really digging into the thought process that goes into what making someone want to or not want to engage with sex. But also, this movie is not explicit. There's no nudity at all. There's no, I mean, there's a very quick implied sex scenes where like he's like, okay, like side shot of a person or they just finished it or whatever. But like
They
this
really
movie does not.
sweaty. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't rely on anything like particularly visually titillating, but it also manages to create such a sexually charged tone because the characters are always talking and thinking about it. I find that twist on like a movie about sex, but like largely straying away from showing anything, is a really interesting balance. And I think also makes this movie feel more like it's exploring psyche rather than trying to just be something that's shock value or whatever. I think it, even though I have no personal problems with sex being shown in movies,
Hmm.
I think that it makes the movie feel a little bit more intellectual and like writery rather than like it's a lot of tell don't show, which I know
Yeah.
is not necessarily like you know, you don't always want to do that, but I think this movie does it very well. It's because
Except
it's a lot of talking about things.
Except let's take tell don't show and extend it even further in that the characters are revealing themselves to us as the third party in their conversations, because it is, I mean, the videotaping, the voyeurism. Soderbergh is
Yeah.
clearly aware that like the audience is yet another party in this whole aspect of what, well, we hear the people
Oh yeah.
talk about stuff. And so I think that the showing of the film and the good writing of the film is in that the characters don't always, and I think kind of not all that often, except in these very like formal situations where like, tell me what you feel, tell me what you think about this question, you're in therapy, tell me about what, what's going on with your life. Those moments are formalized for them to tell us what is up, what is going on in their minds. But then throughout the rest of the film, they are really not so direct, and the telling to the audience is actually more a form of showing, because it's we're not just having it all spelled out for us.
Yeah,
We as
to the point
intelligent,
of the nuanced performances that we were
yes,
mentioning
yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
You can tell that they're not telling the truth. Very difficult with
we got the sex, we got the lies.
and we'll get to the videotape.
We'll
Don't
get
worry,
to the
folks.
videotape.
Well, I have actually, Timo, you mentioned the videotape being a sort of vector for filmmaking a little bit, and I actually do have a thought on that Soderbergh is almost doing a meta thing here, especially when all of the characters sort of first learn about Graham's video camera and his like hobby in
Of which he's
in
like
making these videotapes. Is
very
that
open.
everyone's minds always jumps to the like, oh well, this guy's making sex tapes. This guy's a fucking pervert. I know what the deal is. Like my mind immediately fills in all the blanks of what a guy with women talking about sex
Yeah.
with a video camera is doing.
American Beauty.
But to the exact same point of what we were just talking about, that this movie doesn't engage in a lot of that, like the sultriness or the voyeurism of watching these characters have sex necessarily. Like the film itself is exactly what Graham is doing, where it is a conversation about sex. It is
Yep.
it is opening these doors and exploring the internal workings of people who are being intimate in conversation, not being intimate in physicality or in sexual relations, as they might be called.
As they might be called. Only a
As they-
few,
I've-
only
I've
a few
heard them
short
called that.
years later.
But no, yeah, it's a good point, Timo. But yes, that's just something that I was like, Soderbergh is almost like reflexively making the movie the exact same thing as what Graham is doing.
Sure.
And this
I
movie
wanna-
was yeah.
I want to add yet another thing, and then so yes, they're intimate. These two pairs of characters, which we kind of put them in different pairings at different times in the movie. It's like a love square essentially. They're intimate when they talk to each other, and yet the intimacy during the actual act of sex, as you guys have described it, it's not really filmed all that much. We ellipse around it. We kind of show the beginning or the end. It doesn't, only one couple actually ever has any sex. The other two are kind of like in this state of incapable or not wanting to or not really figured their shit out yet. And the intimacy and like the kind of romance of John and Cynthia is, to me, is displayed as this like fiery, passionate, corporeal thing. It is a body thing. They get so worked up, and the makeup is done so that they look so sweaty and exhausted. But are we given much evidence to the intimacy that this like physical connection is creating between them? I don't really think so. I think that the film is making the intimacy,
It's superficial.
yeah, and it's making it much more in the conversations that our characters have. And like John and Anne don't really get to have a great, their breakup conversation is matter of fact. It's not all that intimate. It's not, they're not really going into
Pretty
their
short.
deep feelings. It's pretty short. And John
Yeah.
kind of explodes and is mad and all that. But Abram, you look like you almost disagree. What are you
Yeah.
thinking?
No, it's not that I disagree. It's just that I think that the film
Phew, thank God.
is I think working quite deliberately to create through imagery and the lack thereof a taboo around sex in the world of the film that
Yes.
matches the taboo that our characters carry with them. And because I think
And
that
I'm
there
thinking
is
about that historical taboo while I watch.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that there is like a very sensual or lustful or erotic at different ports in the film's quality
Absolutely.
to the sex that is implied to be about to happen or have happened. I think about when John is lying on the bed with just a plant over his dick. I mean,
Potted
it's
pathos. Or what is
Table,
it?
never mind. This is a golden pathos, but also that is this movie is a comedy. Tim and I were talking earlier on like IMDb. It says it's a comedy. There's the moments that I think it's not true on the whole, but there are those moments where
So-
you're like,
so
the characters have a little fun.
This
with
is
it.
the kind of thing where I'm like, Soderbergh, you know what you're about. We've shown that John's arms are like this, and yet the pot is like moving around. He wiggling that shit, man. He wiggling that shit.
And
That's
like
completely intentional. That doesn't happen by accident on set.
And everyone's like, oh my God, this is lustful.
It's like, yeah.
Everyone had to and stripped down his skivvies.
I think that we're underappreciating the way that then when Cynthia gets on top of him and they are like breathing heavily on each other and they're starting to talk sexually to each other, that there is it's not even implication. It is just the film cutting before you would have to like imply
Yeah.
penetration. Like this is a film that is, I
Mhm.
think, very carefully creating these situations where there is some hot sex going on, but
It
it's
is
not
a-
important to see it. It's just important
Yeah.
to know that it happens and that our characters internalize the act differently.
It is a thinking man's skin flick. You know, people going to see a movie called Sex, Lies, and Videotape, they're like, oh boy, I'm about to get some good old TNA going into this thing. But no, Soderbergh
Tanner and Abram.
he's obfuscating that. But it is, you know, for all we've been saying about how this movie does not show sex, to Abram's point, it is still a very titillating movie. I mean, the chemistry that is like flowing between our actors and scenes, and you know, I just think about like when when Graham is talking to Cynthia and he sets up the camera and whatever, and he's like sitting on the chair doing like his usual interviewer thing, but then he just like sort of splays out on the floor. It's like, God damn, this guy he's a self-described sort of what's the word I'm looking for here? Not really asexual, but he's like
Impotent.
celibate. Celibate
Mhm.
is kind of what I was looking for.
He's like
He's
a vol cell.
self-described. Yeah, kind of. But he's still like putting the moves on her.
He, like, knows how to do it.
Playing out like that. We're talking 80s James Spader, like in a button-up black, a dress shirt.
In his
And
morgue
then,
outfit
she
or
also
whatever
like
John
lays
calls
down
it.
on the couch too. Like
That
the
reverse shot, though?
movements... What'd you say?
Yeah. That reverse shot of her laying down, I think, is for me one of the most interestingly intimate shots of the movie, because she's like curled up into this half ball on the couch.
Yeah.
Her knees are pulled up to her chest, and her like I think one of her arms is maybe through her legs or something like that. She's like
Mhm.
really like curled up, and it feels, which is really interesting because this is the first time these characters are meeting, and it goes to show how instantly comfortable they are with each other. That even though the scenario is odd for a couple of reasons, they seem to have some sort of immediate connection there, where they immediately get comfortable with one another. He lays on the ground, and she curls up into this very like that's not a position I wouldn't sit in that position around like anyone, frankly, because like I feel like no, I don't know. But, like it's an intimate thing. It's like you look a little bit dorky. You don't present. You're not like your chest isn't puffed up. This is something that's very vulnerable. Is the word I was looking for. And that vulnerability is ultimately kind of what the movie is about: is allowing yourself to be vulnerable around people and express these things that you aren't even sure that you want to be saying yourself.
Let me make a hypothesis here, because there's a character
Okay.
note about
No, golden pathos.
Huh?
He's talking about the plant again.
There's an interesting. I want to go back to the idea of taboo for a second, because if you the scene with our now favorite character, the plant,
Yes.
part of why that
Which is called again, Tucker?
A golden pothos.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Tanner, you remember the library? They had those like everywhere. Those were like grown inside.
Abram, please, sorry,
Frame
continue.
reference.
Part of the the underpinning of that scene is that is in John's house. That's in Anne's bed,
Mhm.
right? So there's this taboo
Oh, yeah.
there. But then I also want to think about a different type of taboo, because I think that there's a religious undercurrent to the character of Graham, because I think there's a religious undercurrent to a lot of the characters in the film. I mean, Anne is always wearing
Sorry,
a
but
cross.
Yeah, I mean, we're
And-
talking about some like they're in the South, you know. These
Yeah.
are people who are at least upholding some sort of moral standing, whether it be socioeconomic or religious, or you know how all those things are kind of the same if you kind of think about it.
One of the
Hey,
opening
whoa.
shots of the movie is Graham driving over that big dang beautiful Mississippi River.
Mississippi.
Mm.
And what do we learn about Graham at the dinner when he arrives? That he used to hold service.
Mhm.
And I sort of think that there is like a way that I look at the tapes he's filming as like him filming confessional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Well, what-
think that there is something to
Oh,
that,
interesting.
like
Yeah, I like
almost
that.
religious taboo that's
Uh-huh.
being performed by him.
But then
Yeah.
he maybe these timelines don't match up, but he explains to Anne that back in the days of college he was like a pathological liar.
Still is, I think, is kind of his
I-
point.
is he even- he
or,
winds
his way
worse
around to
than
saying
maybe
that.
past college, I think.
You
too.
think
He
so?
describes it. Yeah, he describes it as being like a recovering alcoholic. It's
Yeah.
it's a continuum.
Does that line up with his church services?
Hmm.
I mean,
know.
my point of view is
Interesting.
that the church service isn't something that he purports to have done as key to his character. It's something that is brought up by John as key to who he was, and that John is sort of amazed the difference between the man he knew in college and the man he knows now. So I never really
Yeah.
took that as something that was up for debate as to whether or not he did or didn't have a religious
Mhm.
lifestyle.
I mean, all that stuff where John is like just sort of taken aback by how different Graham is, and maybe more accurately, that Graham isn't like him, like they were, you know, years ago, is really good stuff. I mean, every time that he tries to get a slight in at Graham, that like, oh, well, I wonder what the Greeks would think of the way you dress, and Graham is like, what the fuck? Are you're talking about college? You're talking about a fraternity that we were in 10 years ago? Or what is it, 9 years is kind of what they
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're talking like, I don't care, man. Like I got my own stuff going on, and you are clearly kind of still living in the hierarchy of being a, you know, a macho frat guy. He's still living out that particular life path. And I
Mhm.
mean, the key to the whole movie, and this is no secret, I think, to any of us here, is that Graham is like a chaos agent disrupting the life that effectively Peter is in control of.
John.
Sorry, John. I keep saying Peter because Peter Gallagher. Fuck. John is in control of. He has sort of everything under his thumb to a certain regard.
Sure.
I mean, I think that's what makes the initial meeting between Graham and Cynthia so interesting, and why it is so important that that happens first in the movie,
Mhm.
is that it is a recognition that Cynthia, who is a more sexually liberated character than her sister Anne, she is very much upfront about that, and she is even the one that brings up the notion of wanting to have sex at their house instead of at Cynthia's place. I think there's something so interesting to the fact that this sexually liberated character that is sought after and lusted after by John is the first one to be sort of converted against that. Like, she thinks that maybe she has that agency, but I think ultimately in that meeting with Graham, she realizes that she is still serving the patriarchal sort of structure that John has laid out. He has his sort of love triangle, that he's able to have the sexual dynamo sister on the side while also having his very virginal, picturesque stay-at-home wife at home too.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's because there's a lot of details there that endeared me to the film pretty fast. endear is not the right word because it's like, man, I'm not too crazy about what John is up to in this
Right,
film.
right.
But
Yeah.
there's this really smart editing choice to what I was saying at the beginning of the film, where when we first see John and Cynthia hooking up, we're hearing this voiceover of Anne with her therapist. And it's interesting because Cynthia isn't introduced as a character prior. So for a moment, and I don't know if you guys had
Mhm.
this experience as well, for a moment when I see John come home and immediately start engaging in sex with this woman, I thought that was Anne. I thought that was a flashback.
Oh, sure.
But it's the sister. And I think that there's something interesting about that. And I think there's something interesting about the way that John had told Anne to leave her job and to live in this prescribed role. And in that prescribing of her lifestyle, he says, okay, you go take Graham to see apartments so I have the time to go fuck your sister. But
Right,
in
right.
doing so, he created the opportunity, he created the seed of this relationship between John and Anne. And I
Mhm.
think one of the scenes that I found,
Graham.
uh, yeah,
Graham
sorry.
and Anne. Yeah. Peter.
Huh?
One of the
Right.
scenes that
Tanner.
I found so great in these small performance moments is when Graham and Anne, after they've toured the apartment, are sitting down for lunch, and she confesses that she doesn't get the big deal around sex, and he confesses that he's impotent.
Mhm.
And there are these little notes in their performance, the way that Anne nervously is like stroking the stem of the wine glass.
Dude, I mean, that is great stuff. That she is like, yeah.
Yeah. It's this you feel this great, again, this great taboo now is with this one character who doesn't like sex and this one character who can't have sex, but they both want to. You can
Yeah,
feel it.
there's
It's in
electricity
it's the
between
eyes,
them.
like
Mhm.
they're sparkling at each other.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that the film puts forth a what is at this point I would say a very stereotypical, a very gendered appraisal of sex, but one that I think governs a lot of the film, which is when Graham suggests
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
that men learn to love the women they're attracted to, and it's the inverse for women. And I think that there is that this like traditional view of how men and women view sex is, you know, this film's what, 30 years old, it's whatever,
Yeah.
35 years old, but there's like this very traditional battle of the sexes type of thing going on there as well too. But I really I love that the energy in that scene.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially what's so endearing, to actually use that word, about the performances is the little stumbles that they have when they're trying to admit something and not admit something and feeling nervous about it, but also excited about the fact that they're talking about something they didn't think they would be. The movie creates this unique tone through its performances that I think, for me, ingratiated me as a viewer into the uncomfortable yet exciting nature, or exciting because it's uncomfortable nature of these conversations that basically flows through every conversation in the movie. It always seems to lead back to something that one character isn't quite ready to be open about yet, but is then forced to, and is kind of interested by the fact that they're being pushed a little bit, because the movie is a thematically and writing wise, especially around the concept of the videotapes that Graham has, is about the idea that we see things as perverted or taboo, and that line is more gray than we want to admit that it is. Because I think that the it would be a lot easier to write a movie about a guy who is just a pervert and collects these uh, videotapes and maybe sells them, or maybe exploits
Broadcasts them
people.
to South
Yeah,
South
the
America or
things that
whatever.
all of these, all the characters sort of worry about is like he could be doing anything with that, but no, it is part of some very strange, like ritual or healing process, or perhaps staving off a healing process for Graham.
Yeah.
I got a question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
To what extent do you think that the film is like specifically interested in the politics of sex in these characters' lives, and to what extent do you think that sex is sort of just a type of intimacy, and we're dealing with an emotional intimacy issue here? I think that the film, like, if I'm like, what does the film actually have to say about sex other
Mhm.
than people like to have it and it's important to people in different ways? I
Mhm.
don't know. I like, to
I
me, I think the importance is or that the film is sort of operating in part from this premise that Graham puts forth even in that conversation, as just mentioning, of to him, to get advice from someone you have to have sex with them. And to
Mhm.
me, I think that there's like this emotional, I think the film is much more concerned with sort of the emotional um uh
mhm.
fallout of sex
So I'm
more
not
Yes.
so than it
really
is with the act.
yeah. I'm gonna I don't really know what this evidence that I'm about to present, which side of your question it contributes to, but I think it definitely
Mhm.
contributes to it. Graham asks Anne about her having had an orgasm and ever, and she's kind of like, no, never. And
Well,
then
she's not sure
she's
either.
not.
She's
She
like, I
just like
don't
doesn't
know.
know.
I
But
don't think
then
so.
she like
I'm also not sure personally, but we can
personally.
figure that out later.
Okay.
The
It's an elusive question. Let's all be honest with ourselves.
I know.
You're not sure that she has, or
But then the part earlier in the movie, the therapist asks Anne about masturbation, and she reveals that even that is like a little too much for her. She is made uncomfortable. She just doesn't do it. She like admits to maybe having masturbated once. And so
She says it's silly. That's what she
yeah,
says.
she says
It's
it's
so
silly.
silly to do that. Yeah.
And so
this
her
movie's a comedy.
her like having for lack of a better phrase, like having had not reached the climax of this physically intense, emotionally intense act,
Mhm.
in a way, I almost think that it marries the two together, that the sex act is the lead up to the emotional connection, and that can you ever have the emotional connection if both people aren't really getting an equal reward from the act? Like I would think the film is arguing no, but maybe I'm clouding that just with my own
Yeah.
opinion. Um, so I think that conversation and Anne's like, yeah, her lack of comfortability with it, with sex, and not wanting to have it, not that belies the lack of emotional connection that she has with John. Um, but then the eyes that she's given to Graham and the way the movie ends with her pulling up to his house, you're like, I think they're gonna get it on. I think they're primed to be emotionally connected here, and so yeah, I don't know. It doesn't answer your question, Abram, but it's got some more
Well,
evidence
the
for you.
answer to the question is the stance the movie takes is that
Mhm.
media. I think that this movie, in how much it foregrounds the psychology and the conversation around sex,
Mhm.
I think its commentary is that media does not talk about this stuff enough. It is not honest. It's not mature enough. Like many movies or many stories are about the raw viscerality of sex and not much more, and not about just the like not only the conversations between people, but also like the thought processes. Because like a lot of this movie is actually about someone telling someone else, here's what I think about these things. And I don't know how I feel about that. And should I be thinking this way? And like I feel bad that I feel this way, but I do, and I constantly think about it. The I think the point the movie's trying to make is that human sexuality is this wider thing that is much more broad than nudity, much more broad than physical intimacy, much more broad than intercourse, or even just like interacting, touching someone. It is about that psychology. It is about the thought process, the emotional intimacy, the intellectual intimacy, and those can lead to chicken and the egg situation can lead to physical intimacy. I think one can come from the other. The other can come from the other one. Like
Uh-huh.
I think that the movie is presenting this as uh as an exploration of these things that are very rarely covered in movies. And I think that's probably why this movie feels so fresh even to this
Yeah.
day. Is I've watched other movies that are honest and mature about sexual conversations, but never to the point that this movie makes its entire runtime about that. It's a character exploration through the lens of sexual psychology, and that is something a lot of movies are kind of afraid to
Well, yes.
fully capture. Especially to the degree that this one does, because it just feels mature and honest, and the characters are like annoying and they annoy each other, and like this is like it feels believable that all these people would feel X ways about each other given their personalities and their histories.
Yeah, I mean, I think the word that Tucker kept using there, honesty. I mean, the movie is called Sex, Lies, and Videotape, and we perhaps are narrowing in too quickly or too heavily on the sex part when the lies, or perhaps the opposite end of that, the honesty, is what Soderbergh is really zeroing in on. Is like this is what makes or breaks these sexual relationships: is
Sure.
being honest with others and being honest with yourself. And to your point, Abram, or to your question, Abram, about the political side of things or the politics of sex, I just refer back to my sort of thing of like the love triangle that is really just John having a patriarchal control over these two women, these two sisters, basically, to get out of both of them exactly what he wants. And Graham being a form of sexual liberation. Though, again, I have to reiterate, just because I feel like I need to every time I say that this movie does not let Graham off the hook that easily. He is not just like the guy that comes in and fixes all these women's problems. He is also a complex sort of ball of nerves unto himself that must be unraveled. And I think if we want to go into like the closing act of this movie, basically, that becomes ultimately about Graham and what's going on with him, then I think we should.
Yes.
It's also a lot more about John, that last act, than I remembered and was expecting, because he's like barely in the first 2/3 of this movie. I was surprised to see how little the movie was focusing on his psychology as compared to what the other characters are thinking and doing and meeting other people and talking about what's going on. He is someone that his walls are so built up that he has distanced himself, other than the physical intimacy, from discussing these things. And that makes him feel like a black sheep of these four characters that we're following. And especially because I was expecting there to be a lot more Graham and John early on in the movie. We don't get almost any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that gets diffused pretty quickly when John's like, this guy's lame. He's like a weird hippie dude. He doesn't want to like go out and play the links with me or play racquetball or whatever he does in this movie. You know,
Pickleball.
Yeah, that's the new age version.
Yeah, there would be Sex, Lies, and TikTok.
Oh, Tucker's so goddamn true.
Well, it's funny you say that, because they're like, to me, there's, and I felt this recently watching Catherine Bigelow's Strange Days. Also, there's this interesting phenomenon of going back to films from the 80s, the 90s, and sort of seeing their view on technology and how technology functions. And I think, you know, like you watch Strange Days and it's about how like surveillance is actually really good and is like hold institutions of power accountable. And then here you have, we can talk about that at a separate time, but he's got
like, I also watched Strange Days a couple months ago. I don't know if that's what Strange Days is about. I think it's a little bit about the existential nightmare of surveillance and constant surveillance.
I don't know. I
digress.
I think that the end of Strange Days is bad. Sorry, hold on. Okay, hold on. I think that it's interesting the way that the technology actually interacts with these people's lives. There is to your point, you're making a joke about TikTok, but if this was a more modern film, the sort of vector of risk for letting this man film you would be very different. And I think that there's something very interesting about this analog.
I still do it, by the way.
Huh?
I still let him do it.
Oh, fair. There's something very interesting about this analog, very intimate, very sort of dead-ended technology here. He's going to record you on this videotape that he's going to write your name on the spine of, and it's going to exist in this little wood crate, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Now, there's still the risk that it can, but it's not the same risk. And I think that there's something interesting about that. But the technology,
it can be destroyed also.
And
that's the thing.
Yeah, very easily destroyed.
Unlike, you know, a video you upload to the old internet, that's never going to be destroyed.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like this one.
Exactly.
Like this. Yep.
and so I just think that that's I think that that's a very interesting just analog dimension of this film. It doesn't speak to really the text of it that much, but I'm sort of taken by this very
Yeah.
physical process of these grainy tapes he records, and then he
They're
stores.
so grainy.
And-
They're so grainy, and also the angles are so shocking. The ways in which he frames the faces of the people that he's talking to, and the way that then the film presents them as it's very clearly a camera set up very close to an actual television, and the tape is playing, and you can see the scan lines, and you can see the fuzz, the analog nature of it. And then also within the framing of what Graham is shooting, it's like these really interesting close-ups that are kind of like set a little bit lower than you would expect, and like he's not framing them like wide. It's those moments I think do play into where I think this movie is formally more interesting than a lot of other movies around that time, and does make it feel more indie, more analog, more like experimental in some way, because that level of like you'd expect that out of like an experimental short film, like home video, really close up, using the scan lines, like awkward angle. It doesn't feel produced. It feels
I think that's
like
exactly
found footage.
the idea
Yeah.
that Soderbergh is going for is that Graham, for all we know that he does, which we don't really know what he does for a living,
No.
is not like a
He has a bunch of money.
filmmaker. Yeah, he has a lot of money. Is not a filmmaker.
Where's the Graham prequel?
Which maybe
Can
lends
we-
itself to him. Maybe he's a filmmaker because he doesn't have a lot of money. But got him.
Wait.
Got those guys.
I had an interesting thought, and it's left me now.
I'm
It'll
sorry,
come back.
I zinged you. I zinged you
Timo,
too
I got
hard,
three
Timo.
words that might help remind you.
Okay.
Sex,
Oh,
lies.
hang on. Hang on. I like where this is
Or
going.
videotape.
Ooh, a little curveball there, but I can get behind that.
Oh, I got it. I got it.
Yes.
Yay!
So the thing that struck me as most experimental in this film is that once John storms over to Graham's place, barges his way in, and starts watching the tape of Anne's, not Cynthia's. He
Mhm.
picks between the two of them. He picks his wife.
Well, Graham has corrupted this his stay-at-home wife, his virginal sort of thing that marks his position as a man almost.
Basically, yeah. And so then we begin to watch the tape on tape, but soon we cut to a flashback, and we cut back into the real life camera, or the camera that filmed it as it was, without where we can see the tape camera being panned around and stuff, held in the character's hands. And I found that to be very interesting because of the choice to then not mediate this conversation through John's eyes, and it goes on long enough that by the time we cut back out, we get out of this small frame story, that then it was jarring to me. I was kind of reminded, oh, that's right, I am watching this through John watching this, and I found that to be just very effective and very engaging right there at the end of the film.
I mean,
And
the moment
experimental.
when Anne turns the camera back on Graham is really like it's really an interesting moment in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
It's also one of the best moments of performance, I think, from Graham.
Spader.
Spader, James Spader.
Yeah.
In the recoil. He's
Yeah.
like, this has never happened to him before.
Yeah.
And even though he is so comfortable, obviously we see reams and reams of people that he's talked to, but he's so comfortable being the interviewer and relaxing into this position.
He's got his power.
asking these-
He has
Yeah.
power over women with the camera, like John does.
He
with
does,
the
but
marriage.
also what makes his character so interesting is that he exerts his power very subtly.
Mhm.
He's not
Soft,
loud.
soft
He's actually
boy style.
whispering.
Mhm.
Yes. And he's never aggressive. He convinces people to do things with his understanding of psychology and communication. Like, he's a very skilled orator through the ways that he expresses himself and creates an atmosphere of being comfortable and trusting that allows people to trust him and tell them their stories like this. But you can tell that he has this power because when he loses it and the camera, the table is turned, the script is flipped on him, he flips the fuck out. Like he like hides behind the TV and he's like
Mhm.
covering his face. And he's like, no, we don't, like, don't do that. Like that's actually,
Yeah.
I think maybe the loudest he gets in the movie, like decibel wise, is when he is terrified of the idea of he like he tells his story. I don't know how much of it is true because he is a liar,
Yeah.
but he tells his story about who he is as a person. He seems very honest about it. But I do think that the fact that he is so afraid to have it recorded means that I like that's the where I feel like the lie really breaking down. The facade completely shatters, and so I'm thinking back. I'm like, I don't know how much of what he says about himself is true
Mm.
if he's so afraid to have it permanentized by the act of filming.
If I may be so bold.
No,
Okay. Graham is a good director in the way that he can get these
Sure.
performances out of people, and I think that much in the way that many great films are, Sex, Lies, and Videotape is a little bit about filmmaking. Soderbergh's kind of putting himself and his fellow filmmaker on blast potentially.
Yeah.
The one thing that I really zeroed in on in this scene that lends itself to that is when Anne says, Graham says something along the lines of like, I don't want to get people involved in my problem or anything like that. And then Anne rebuts that immediately with, everybody that walks in that door is part of your problem. Everybody that you put on camera becomes part of your problem. It all becomes part of this sort of healing process. I go back to like, is the videotape a healing thing for him, or is it staving off really addressing what his core issues are? Ultimately, like, it's kind of what filmmaking is. If you're a director who has things to say, like, are you like processing your emotions through making a film? Of being an auteur, writing a film and directing it and doing things, having people perform the way you want them to perform. Is it something that is sprung from your mind as a way to process emotion, or is it a more narcissistic pursuit that is buffing up your own ego a little bit, or helping you obfuscate the core issues that you want to explore through filmmaking, but maybe should be explored in a more personal way?
See, I take the filmmaking from John's perspective in that it who gives a shit about story and creativity? It's all about the cash, baby.
You're the 80s yuppie of the whole business.
The
Okay, I get you.
producer.
I understand.
The producer.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think that an interesting fact about the tapes he's recording is that they are explicitly for his own sexual gratification. And I think that's this.
And he
sort of
explains this and is open with that fact to his subjects.
Yeah, and I think that like it's sort of this very transactional relationship. Again, not in terms of money changing hands, but in terms of these women having the opportunity to say whatever they want onto the tape for as long as they or as little as they want. He says one woman recorded for 3 minutes, one woman used 3 2-hour tapes. So, but he's also getting
that's 6 hours, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Got a guy on that. Just double check that real quick.
I used a calc.
There was like 20.
So, continue.
There's like 20 minutes of the movie where I couldn't focus on the plot because I was like trying to two and
Yeah,
two.
that's fair. He missed the whole second act because of that. Yeah.
Well, as soon as I have to invoke the second hand, it's kind of hard to carry what it does. But
Like,
now that I know that it's 6, I think that the way that Anne questions the foundation of that trade is very interesting to me. And the way that she talks about, I'm really taken by the moment actually when he mentions, I spent 9 years of my life making sure this would never happen.
Structuring his life to make sure that it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, being
I
a
believe
sort
that's
of
what he says.
nomad in that, travel, not really staying in one place.
One
keeping these women.
key. I
One
like
key.
that line.
That's true. That's good. I like that a lot too. Yeah. But yeah, keeping all of this stuff at arm's length, basically.
Yeah, this idea that he can, again, and much in the way that, like, again, let's think about the characters in pairs, much in the way that John attempts to sort of compartmentalize this affair with Cynthia as one aspect of his life. We have in a similar way Graham attempting to do that with these very clinical, very clear stop and end sexual encounters. That's all filmed, and it's interesting how both collapse their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And for one, the affair with Cynthia is discovered by Anne and it ends the marriage. His shirking off of work to go have sex with Cynthia destroys his career.
Right.
So that attempt at compartmentalizing the sex did not work. And it's the same for Graham. Now, as we see, there's a little bit more of a redemptive quality to what happens to Graham insofar as that the optimistic note the film ends on is that he was able to in some way overcome. But I think it's interesting that we have to sort of give him his confessional if we were to go back to that framing I suggested before, because he has to atone for what he's done, and he has to understand what he's done. And I think that Anne forces him to reconcile with that. And I think that's very powerful and differently intimate in the same way that the women masturbating for him or talking about sex acts when they were very young are. It's the same.
Graham craves that sort of honesty and intimacy, but he doesn't want the attachment to another person that comes with it. Is kind of the be all end all of his whole psychology.
He wants to like
and
he wants to hear the
result-
words, but not
Yes.
be part of the action. Almost
to the point he is so obsessed with it to the point that it becomes a sexual endeavor for him. That it becomes the most perverse idea of like somebody getting off on the idea of being honest with someone, which is pretty interesting. And then he does get that attachment at the end. Like him and Anne end up together in the sort of closing shot of the movie, basically.
the last shot.
Yeah. They have this sort of house together. They are presumably both solved or solving what is going on in their headspaces, but they're good for each other is kind of the note that we end on there, is that they are both these puzzle pieces that fit nicely together, and you can feel the magnetism between them from their very first interaction.
There's also, I think, something really interesting and important to the fact that Anne gets a job again.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely. She's forced to give up her job by John, and then she's able to reclaim this piece of her life.
But you got to support that deadbeat Graham. He's not doing shit.
He's not
He's
doing
like-
it.
money
No,
under the
remember,
mattress.
He's got a lot
put-
of money.
Yeah, that's true. That's
He
good.
needs to
That's a good
buy
point.
Apple stock.
But
Now is the right time to buy Apple stock.
Yes, exactly. But no, he's too worried up there. He's got a number 2 pencil. He's winding back the VHS cassettes.
Yeah, that he smashed on the floor. He's like, like 2 nights later after doing that, he's like, man, I really wish I didn't fucking do that.
Those things are pretty. Those Betamax tapes, they're pretty expensive. Shit.
Those were not Betamax. Those were like
I
high
know.
8. That was like cassette.
It
was a
I'm just
lo-fi
throwing out
version.
like the analog technology terms. that
Buzzwords,
I know.
buzzword.
Yeah. I said
CCD.
VHS cassette, which is 2 different things.
Yeah. It matters not. It matters not.
Have we gotten to the tone where we're jonesing for scores?
Yeah,
I just want to point out just something that I put in my notes that is not some lofty ideal like we have been talking about, but just a testament to Soderbergh's ability to just write a compelling script. And I think Tucker was the one to open up the conversation, really saying this, is that this is an exciting movie. Like it is not some. It has
doesn't
these
drag.
heavier ideas. No, it's like 90 minutes. It's really exciting in a sort of melodramatic fashion, but then it's got all this dimension to it. But gets the soapy and melodramatic thing that just a microcosm of that I think really works is you set up in the first act that we get a little bit of a Chekhov's pearl earring thing going on.
Oh, yeah.
And then because you hear that and you're like, well, obviously I know what's going to happen with that pearl earring, but he waits just long enough in the script in the movie that you have kind of forgotten about it to a point where she's vacuuming and you hear that click, and you're like, the earring! I can't believe I forgot about the earring, but that's what it is, and it's all happening now.
Yeah.
And this is the pin being pulled out of the emotional grenade, and it's about to explode here.
Mhm.
Whoa.
Yeah.
One other thing, costuming.
this guy
I know we brought up the costuming thing a little bit earlier. Just a neat little note that like Graham is always wearing black. And Cynthia often wears black, especially after her interaction with Graham. But Anne is obviously wearing white a lot, as is
John.
John a whole lot. But after she gets it, she after Anne makes her tape with Graham, she's also wearing black.
Yeah.
No longer the virginal sort of thing that I guess I kept going back to.
Dark Anne.
Dark Anne, tortured Anne,
punished Anne,
punished Anne,
punished Graham.
Yeah, we got to it.
Yeah, they are punished by their honesty, but they're also set free by it.
They are.
Well,
They are. And now,
bars.
is it time for us to punish the audience with our honesty about the score of this movie?
Sure, why not?
No, Timo, honesty is a good thing. That's what I learned from Sexualized Videotape. I didn't think it was before.
I was under the impression that you shouldn't be honest.
Oh well, you messed up.
I thought it was like Graham's an awesome guy because he lies, and you should be just like him.
It's like Patrick Bateman.
You should be just like Patrick Bateman, to be clear. That's the lesson you should take away from all of our American blank movie talk.
Do you think there's any significance?
Be like Kevin Spacey.
Do you think there's any significance to the fact that John plays racquetball, and then James Spader as Robert California plays racquetball in The Office?
I mean, probably. I mean, so if we're getting down to it, like the
writers
social
probably knew.
signifier of racquetball is something. Yes.
Tanner taking it seriously.
Not to step on your joke. Sorry, everyone, but
do you think it'd be fair to call anyone in this film an effete, weak-willed? What is it?
Something debutante, right?
Yeah, like weak, like small penis debutante or something.
Something like, yeah, maybe small dicked is maybe something they say. Can you say that on TV?
I don't know.
It's a good thing we're on YouTube, man. I've seen some pretty heinous things on this website.
Palm details.
Real
Hit
quick.
it.
Hit me with it.
At the 1989 Cannes Film Festival, Sexualized Videotape was the lone winner amongst the 21 other nominees. Or not nominees, films in competition, rather. Notable submissions amongst those 21 were another film that could honestly have won, and it is perfect and is a masterpiece that we should have been talking about. Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing.
Oh, give me a break! Give me a break! Ah! My neighborhood streets. I got to tell you guys this. My neighborhood streets are filled with murals to that movie because he filmed it like 2 blocks from where I live. I live on Stuyvesant Ave.
Holy shit, dude.
I don't think I said it right. I'm going to get murdered in the comments for that. I can never say that.
Yeah, you're going to go to that racist pizza place or whatever?
I don't think it exists anymore.
Fair enough. Other notable film in competition, Jim Jarmusch's Mystery Train was in competition. The jury president this year was a little guy named Wim Wenders, representing the country of Germany. Other notable jury members, Krzysztof Kieslowski, representing Poland, and everyone's favorite,
likes colors.
the wonderful, the incomparable Sally Field was representing the U.S. of A.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Sally Field watched Sexualized and Videotape and probably decided that it should win. Or do you think she's more of a do the right thing kind of gal?
Tough
to say.
I don't know. We got to get some commenters to tell us what to think about that, I believe.
Did Smoking the Bandit win?
Smoking the Bandit, I think was in competition. I think that was maybe the director's fortnight of at its Cannes Film Festival.
Fortnite?
We like Fortnite.
Yeah. I was trying to make a niche Cannes film festival nerd joke, but then I realized I said the word Fortnite, and I was going to get entirely derailed. Okay,
let's find out what we're given. Sexualized and Videotape. 3, 2, 1. Beep, boop. Okay, the scores are coming in. The polls are closed. We've got a number. It's gonna be a flat 9.0, which actually means it's going to rocket way up to the top of the list.
Oh, yeah.
Not quite top 10, but there is no tie because we've got an 8.9 and a 9.1, but no 9.0. And so there it goes. Where the heck does it go again? Up here.
It's at number 11.
Yes, indeed. Number 11.
There you go.
Truly.
Out of 57, there's 6 movies with a score of 9.1. So we really actually lucked out. by having
Yeah.
scored,
Yeah.
scored
There's
as
lot
a,
of
as a
9.1
9.0. The point breakdown, I gave it a 7.7, and then we got Tucker with a 9.3, Abram with a 9.5, and Tanner with a 9.6. And I'm just going to say
Mhm.
that's perfect as it is. Nobody changed nothing. We don't want to be
Nope.
not a finger.
We don't usually let like a last minute. Oh shit! I changed my mind.
No, we don't.
No.
No. You don't get to change who
We
you
didn't need-
voted for in the.
Well, that's against the rules and regulations of Quest. I assume you guys
We
know
all
that.
signed on to the. We signed to
you
the
read
bylaws.
the
Yeah.
packet that I sent over to all of you, I assume.
Yeah, and the contract that lets me exploit you forever if you don't.
Huh?
Sorry?
Huh?
Well, that's 80s yuppie Timo coming out again. He's got his suspenders and his big wide tie.
Yeah, I need a big wide tie. That's for certain. Shall we?
Okay.
Shall we spinneth a wheeleth?
Let's do it.
Not this week.
Not this week. Not
Okay.
this week. I'm getting tired of the wheel. Oh, don't say that. The wheel would be offended.
Yes. Okay. Let's
Ready?
do it. Wheel, what's your deal? Give us a movie that makes us squeal. Is it on digital or is it on real? Wheel, what's your deal?
The number. It's number 6.
6. Oh, we gotta go we're getting in our Wayback Machine. Here we go, folks.
Uh-oh.
Whoa.
And I didn't shuffle the wheel either, so we were getting a
Will this
bit.
be
We
another
were,
1945?
It doesn't matter.
Is this another 1945? Let's
We've done
find out
too
here. So
many of
I'll
those.
refer to the sheet just to make sure because sometimes the release year can get messed up. But no, this is a 1947 film. This is a film from 1947, as I said. Edward Dmytryk, I believe is how you say that name. You know,
Sure.
a fellow that we've probably heard of before. This is it's actually got some people that I recognize, some names that I recognize here. Paul Kelly, Gloria Graham, Robert Ryan, Robert Mitchum, and with the Triple Crown here, folks, Robert Young. This is
Whoa.
1947's.
That's not going to get confusing.
Nope, this is not. Crossfire. Crossfire is the film we'll be talking about
Crossfire.
next.
What?
How does it relate to Crossfire X?
You guy.
What is there a log line
looks
for
to be
this movie? What is it about?
Hate is like a loaded gun. Looks to be a black and white noir detective noir film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Consider my interest piqued.
pretty simple synopsis here on Letterboxd. A man is murdered, apparently by one of a group of soldiers just out of the army. But which one and why? Ooh, a titillating mystery here.
Ooh, yeah.
I can't wait to find
86 minutes.
86
Oh,
minutes. Boy, in and out of
kick
this one.
ass.
This
out.
was
I
pretty
already
appealing.
watched it.
Oh my
Yeah.
That was quick.
Whoa.
I blinked. Well, hey,
Cool.
that was pretty good or bad. I will have to let you know next episode.
It seems to be pretty well regarded, I find.
Tucker holding his secrets, having seen the movie already.
Mhm.
Very quickly.
No, I have.
Tucker already knows who done it. We're talking about a who done it here.
Well,
I don't think we've ever done a sort of like who done it mystery.
like a right
on
proper
Quest
one.
before.
I don't
Grand Hotel, kind of.
kind of.
Yeah, I guess that's
there's
the
a
one
murder in that
I
one.
went to as well. Yeah,
But we
Yeah,
know who did
there's a
it.
murder.
We see it happen, and we know who did it.
yeah.
It's more like how they
It was
get.
like
It's like how they gonna get outs of it.
How they
Instead of
gonna
a
get
who.
out of the hotel?
who done
the
it?
Grand Hotel.
All right.
Who done that? It's a how get away with it.
Gotta start inventing more crime drama genres that are just
Yeah, yeah,
long
yeah.
strings of words put together. Let's leave it to Beaver. Let's be done. This was a fun episode. I enjoyed talking about Sex Lies Videotape with you guys. Cannot wait to get back into that old-timey noir vibe. For next week, we'll be hitting Crossfire. As always, write your thoughts in the comments below. As you heard at the top of the episode, we need it. We need it. We require it. It's it's kind of like eating your Wheaties. I need to read my comments in the morning. So
Real big and strong.
yes, hop to it, dear viewer, and we'll be back.
chop chop.
So stay cool, keep warm. Peace.